Good morning. Welcome to the Affordable Housing Advisory Board of Hillsborough County on Monday, October 11th at 9 a.m., or actually 9:05. Sorry for the little bit of a delay. It looks like we're going to have a quorum this morning, so it should be a great day. With that, I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you have the ability to stand, please stand, and we'll offer the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you very much. On Indigenous Peoples Day, I'd like to celebrate those that were living here when a lot of us showed up, and to honor those that lived here prior to the establishment of the Americas, and to remember our history, and as an affordable housing community, those looking to protect and increase housing for those that live here. There's a natural alignment because many of the indigenous people were displaced at times, and we're looking to celebrate the culture and the richness that they've brought to our country and recognize some of the challenges and indiscretions that occurred with the people that live here in our country. With that, I'd like to do a roll call for those here as well as those that are online. Given that this is a hybrid meeting, we have some actually in the boardroom, which is terrific because we actually have a quorum today. But also we have several attending online. So Natasha, would you mind calling the roll, please?
Overman.
Here.
Rosenwasser.
Present.
Myers.
Here.
Burton.
Here.
Combs.
Here.
Jackson Sims.
Here.
Abel.
Here.
Goods.
Here.
Perfect timing.
You're right here.
That was perfect. Hollis. I see Mr. Hollis on the line.
He may be muted.
Yeah, he might be muted. And I believe Mr. Powell is on the way.
Excellent.
All right. And then we just have county staff Cheryl Howell
Here.
and Nancy Takamori.
Here.
Excellent. We have a quorum present. Thank you so very much all for being here. This morning, we do have 15 minutes set aside for public comment. There's instructions online for signing up for public comment, and arrangements for the members of the public who want to participate have been given access to public hearings. Anyone wishing to speak during the public hearing can do so by contacting the Affordable Housing Advisory Board at affordablehousingservices@hillsboroughcounty.org. You'll be required to provide your name and telephone number in your email to request to speak. This information being requested is to facilitate the auto conferencing process. The chair will call speakers by name in the order in which they were submitted via their email request. Prioritization on a first-come, first-served basis. An audio call-in number will be provided to participants who have submitted an email request. All callers will be muted upon calling and will be unmuted in the submission order after being recognized by the chair by name. Up to 3 minutes are allowed for each speaker. Sign-ups for the Affordable Housing Advisory Board, October 11, 2021, will not be accepted after 30 minutes prior to the start of the meeting. Public comments offered using communications media will be afforded equal consideration as if the public comments were offered in person. You can also submit comments or any documents prior to the meeting by sending them to the Affordable Housing Services at hillsboroughcounty.org. Speakers are asked to follow common courtesy when speaking before the committee, and disruptive participants will be removed at the chair's discretion if they violate the following prohibitions. 1, promoting or advertising of or soliciting of private businesses. 2, personal attacks against others, including members of our board, committee, or staff members. And with that, calls for violence and inappropriate language, racial and discriminatory comments, defamatory statements, and religious intolerance are not acceptable as well. And with that, I'd like to ask Natasha, if you could go through the list for me of any public comments we received.
We did not receive any requests for public comments today.
Okay, all right, well, great. So we'll look forward to hearing from folks maybe next month. With that, because we do have a quorum, I'd like to welcome you all and ask for a motion to approve several minutes. We have the minutes of June 14th, July 12th, August 9th, September 13th, regular meetings.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion to approve by Councilman Goods, seconded by Commissioner Myers and Director Combs. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Overman,
Here, yes.
Rosenwasser,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Burton, Combs, Jackson Sims, Abel,
Yes.
Goods, Powell, Hollis. Okay, I did not hear him.
Alice is still muted.
Yeah, I think he's still muted.
It'll come back to him.
Okay, we'll come back to him. All right, well, the motion carried unanimously, so we'll just, hopefully Mr. Hollis will be able to join us later.
Excellent. I saw him unmute for about a second, and then he's muted again. So thank you very much for that. We've been wanting to get that done for quite some time, so I really appreciate everyone being here today. It's great to kind of get back to normal and see all those friendly faces that are part of this board, and thank you for your service. The next item on the agenda is the chair's report and a chair's update. Today, I would like to make sure that I bring to your attention that in last month's discussion, we spoke and saw a presentation regarding the Community Land Trust. The good news is that we were able to bring it to the Board of County Commission and presented it to the board as a process that we'd like to, that the advisory board were highly recommending, and that motion was approved. So the good news is not only have we instruction from the board or approval from the board to move forward on establishing a community land trust, but in the request, I did request 3 years worth of startup costs to make sure that we're able to get that community land trust up as rapidly as possible. Within the presentation, so I would recommend, if you haven't seen it again, to go back and take a look at it. But the steps that we have, that were presented as part of establishing the community land trust will move forward. So we'll be moving forward on that. And so I'm very proud of not only this board for moving that forward and the hard work that our staff, Ms. Cheryl Howell, and many within our legal staff, Ms. Takamori, thank you very, very much for helping us move that forward, along with our consultant to move forward on establishing that community land trust. So thank you very much. Mr. Goods, you're recognized.
Thank you.
Councilman Goods. Sorry.
Just a side note, I did make a motion for the city CRA to bring forth the presentation. And so they're going to be coming in November. I personally contacted the gentleman who made the presentation here. The city is doing something, my understanding, with the organization, but I wanted the organization to specifically come to the CRA to focus on CRA business, since the CRA, I have most of the CRAs in my district. So they're going to make a presentation solely for CRAs as it relates to the nonprofit for CRA to get the CRAs moving in the way of affordable housing.
Excellent, excellent news. Yes, I know the city had previously had moved forward on creating a community land trust, or City of Tampa, sorry, community land trust as well. So we're looking forward to seeing both of our efforts move forward. So that's terrific news. Additionally, we are still working with the cities on following up on the Tenant Bill of Rights. That was approved by the Board of County Commission for unincorporated Hillsborough County, and back in May, if I'm not mistaken. So we're still pursuing, working with the cities to make sure that there's some consistency in not only having tenants understand what their rights are and where their resources are available in the event that they feel as though they're not being followed, but also to make sure that the landlords are very familiar with what is permitted and what is not permitted within Hillsborough County. So with that, Councilman Coons, do you have a question or comment?
Last week, or the week before that, the legal department did bring back a summary of the bill, of the ordinance you have here. They made another motion to bring back an ordinance within 60 days. So hopefully that'll be coming back from the legal department on a first reading ordinance to move forward, with a second to go forward with what the county has done, so we can mirror what the county is doing.
Excellent. That is really good news as well. And I'm sure Ms. Takamori is going to get consulted quite a bit on that issue to make sure the lawyers all have the same language, or at least as close as possible, so to avoid confusion for our citizens and our landlords, whether they're inside Hillsborough County or not. Mr. Rosenweiser. Turn your mic on. There you go.
As a representative of the Bay Area Apartment Association, I've spoken to them about having members of both the city and the county have a special forum for the members of the association to make them aware of everything, their obligations, of the Tenant Bill of Rights, so that everybody is aware.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very, very much. Ms. Abel,
Yes?
did you have a comment? I wasn't sure if you had.
No, I don't.
Okay, great. I know that we are still awaiting a decision, or at least a response back from the City of Temple Terrace and Plant City, and looking forward to working with them on seeing where we can create consistent language across the various different municipalities to assist both tenants and landlords in making sure that they are operating in a good way and not discriminating against the source of income, because that was one of the major issues. But there's great language in it that really clarifies both a landlord and a tenant's rights and responsibilities, and our flyer is very, very helpful. We're looking forward to seeing the cities actually participate in that. Ms. Abel.
And just to give you an update, I did bring it up at the last council meeting that I was at, and the other council members were really interested in actually reading the ordinance from the county. So about a week after that, we received it, so everyone's had a chance to look it over. So I think we'll be able to move forward with that once everyone has a good understanding of everything that it entails.
Excellent, excellent. Do you have a name of your legal counsel that may be taking a lead on reviewing those documents that could work with Ms. Takamori?
Yes, our city attorney is Pam Shishon. She's not on? Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
You may want to move your mic just a teeny bit closer and see if that helps. There you go.
But our city attorney's name is Pam Shishon. And
Okay, great. Thank you. Good update.
Madam Chair,
Sir, you're recognized.
I know that our legal department, we had several calls in reference to 3 different points in the county's ordinance that they were concerned about. So our legal department is looking at those 3. And it was the Bay Area Apartment Association, I believe, that called me several times to meet in reference to a couple of issues that in the ordinance. So I made sure that legal looks at those different points that they're concerned with, so we can make sure everything was covered. I can't remember totally right now so many things, but it were 3 different points in the ordinance they were concerned with.
Okay, great. Well, hopefully we can get those resolved. We ran into some, important details when we were approving ours, and we worked very well with the Bay Area Apartment Association to find a language that everybody seemed to be okay with. So just to bring that to your attention, that's hopefully we'll be able to address those issues. Commissioner Myers, you're recognized.
Thank you. Can we look to see if the city of Plant City would like to participate with the ordinance and reach out to their county attorney as well?
Is your mic on?
Yes, I can read. Send that if we can have our legal department to contact the city of Plant City regarding the ordinance, and to see if they would be interested in participating, so that way all the municipalities would have the same language if they so desire to approve it.
We have done exactly that, and we've not gotten a response back as of yet. The one thing that we have unfortunately received is a resignation by Mayor Lott as our appointee from the city of Plant City. And we are awaiting his recommendation for a member of their elected bodies that could serve as in his place, given that we've received in the last, I think, 30 days, a letter of resignation from Mayor Lott as just due to time constraints. You know, he knows it's been very important for us to have a full quorum, and he recognized that that was very difficult for him to do. So we're looking forward to an appointment or a recommendation for appointment by the board to the Affordable Housing Advisory Board. Ms. Burton, you're recognized.
Thank you. And I just want to say, I don't know how this ordinance would align itself with the city.
Your mic, wait, can you make sure your light's on?
Sorry.
There you
All
go.
right. So I don't know how this ordinance would align itself up with the city has a multi-crime-free housing program that targets specifically in low-income communities and properties that many would consider slumlords. But what it does is that it moves quickly toward eviction. So, you know, while city and county would like the partners on a lot of things, I would just be very cautious to make sure that the county don't get muddled in any type of racist type of programs that would then smear your program.
Understood, understood. I recently did a little bit of research on that program to see how it would play in our ordinance, and hopefully it doesn't. Actually, it may actually offer us some opportunities to problem solve in that area. Ms. Jackson-Sims, you're recognized.
I'd like to encourage the county staff and the apartment association to continue to aggressively have an education campaign. There is a challenge going on with apartments in the Riverview and Brandon area right now with several of the complexes there refusing to consider Section 8 as income. I know it's going on because the people are coming to me to talk to me about, I tried, I thought you said, and I think that it is a matter that we started an education campaign early in May, and we have not continued to aggressively continue that education campaign. At least I want to think that's what it is. So for us to have this ordinance, I believe for the ordinance to work, we are going to have to continually educate aggressively and also look at what happens when you've done all the education you can and people still refuse to comply and follow through on it.
Thank you. To answer your question, we were presented with a communications plan for, as you've indicated, there were a couple of outreach center sessions early on, and I'm glad to see that those were somewhat effective. Maybe we can ask communications to offer us a ongoing type of program, either using you know, our HGV or other resources. But also, I think it is important that we have at least an annual update with landlords to make sure that they are aware. There are punitive charges for violations of it. And if you are aware of those organizations that are possibly ignoring the ordinance, code enforcement actually will serve them, or at least advise them of the rules. So, and there are financial fines associated with that. So I appreciate the heads up. If you'd like to reach out to staff and provide us with some guidance, we'll be able to do what we can to make sure that those rules are followed. Commissioner Myers, and I'll get to
Commissioner.
Councilman Goods as well as to Mr. Rosenwasser. Oh, wait, Rosenwasser, I'm sorry.
To the extent allowable on the sunshine
Your mic is not on.
Sorry.
Could you start
Within the permitted sunshine law, if you could get to me the list of any communities, I will be happy to personally contact not only the properties, but the owners of those properties. Sometimes the owners are getting the message, sometimes the managers are getting the message, but the owners aren't getting it and enforcing it, and most of these owners are out of state and whatever. So I will make sure that I will get it to both the managers and the owners, that they need to follow the law.
Excellent. I would recommend making sure that any issues that you represent, to make sure that list gets to Ms. Takamori, and then let staff provide appropriate guidance for getting that addressed. Because I think it is important that we recognize that sometimes people haven't been aware. But to be fair, when they are aware, they need to follow the law. So we will work with making sure that the proper, not only staff, but also where education can be provided to those individuals. And if it's not corrected, the code enforcement is notified and the issue is addressed. But thank you for bringing that to our attention. I appreciate it. Commissioner Myers, then I'll call you. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Councilman Goods?
You know, sometimes you have to change the dynamics of the game, and you have to look at, sometimes when you look at stigmas, when you hear the word Section A, it's a stigma. So you have to look at what other places are doing, which I know out west, they call what they call partnering. Let's make sure I got it right. So I've introduced that to our people as well. Partnering housing. You change the name. And partnering housing is everybody is included in housing, not just Section A, and you change that name to get that name away from it, and now you have all levels of income living in a development. You change the mindset of everyone. So you have to look at how you're giving out a product. You also have to look at, I received some information from Seattle and some other places are doing as it relates to housing as well, as you look at when you're having developers develop, that you have an ordinance to where if you're going to develop, you have to give something back in return, incentives, but when you can give back in a development or have a strict ordinance for the whole county, including municipalities or however that can be done, to where developers want to develop, we give some incentives, but it's inclusionary, and then you have to worry about this exclusive apartment complex or that exclusive apartment complex. You develop, and you develop to where everyone is included in the development, and then that changes the game. So we have to look at those ideas to be a game changer. And so I'm looking at a bunch of stuff from other places to get that concept, but I think that's how you kind of change the game with housing. And thirdly, when you look at 32% of the housing costs, and everybody wants to come to Florida. And Florida has, strict property rights and guidelines, but I think you have to look at the game changer again when you look at when you pay taxes. Well, taxes doesn't just raise, that's going to be 32% within a year. We have to look at also looking at maybe a county ordinance, the ordinance to how we can look at the percentage of rent going up, maybe every 2 years, every 3 years, versus every year, the cost of rent going up every year. Well, if my paycheck is not increasing, how can I live? So these are the type of things we need to also look at in research of looking at how can we have an ordinance that will align with our Florida statute per se, to say, well, we're not going to have rent increases, jump up 32% in 1 year, and then all of a sudden someone who's paying an average $800, $900, now their rent just went up $400 or $500. Well, my pay ain't went up. And now I can't get gas, I can't get daycare, if I get a single parent, I can't do this, I can't do that. And those extra little dollars do help along the way. We got this medium income, sometimes to me, it still isn't rational, this area medium income. Still isn't rational, but we use that as a guide. But you got to have non-subsidized money to also help those people that fall into that gap, and that's a problem as well. That's why with our ARPA money, the council said that we would want money that's non-restricted to where you can do what we need to do to help everyone, and not, and still those folks at the bottom sometimes can't get help because the guidelines are so stringent still there too. So I think those are 3 points that this board needs to look at as a holistic goal of everybody in this county, including Temple Terrace, Plant City, to see how we can craft something to where everybody's on the same page.
Excellent comments, and we actually are. So there's 2 items on today's agenda that address some of those issues. Ms. Jackson Sims, and I'll get back to you. No, I'm sorry. Go right ahead.
Okay.
Mr.
Councilman,
Wilson?
you raised some excellent points. I, as in my capacities with the local, state, and as president of the local association, president of the state association, and chairman of the board of the National Apartment Association, started affordable housing committees on each and every one of those. And those are doing extremely well and functioning as they are. There is unfortunately a stigma when you talk about Section 8. I'm not sure what we would call it, but there are those who don't want to, unfortunately, there are those owners that want the haves and not the have-nots. And that is very unfortunate. I can tell you that within my company, and we manage about 40 communities, many located in Hillsborough County and throughout the state. I make it part of my management agreement that rent increases will be limited to a certain amount, and that if I have to personally make an investment in that property in order to ensure that, I do so. I've actually terminated a management agreement because of it. So it is a very hard effort. Unfortunately, people are paying crazy prices for real estate these days. And with the taxes and the insurance and everything else, particularly the new articles on flood insurance, they're trying to figure out a way to get it back. So it's a multi-pronged effort that we really have to work hard at.
Thank you. And actually, in the language of the Hillsborough County ordinance, we're very careful about addressing that discrimination and how the language is written. And that's part of the whole process. That's part of the reason the whole Tenant Bill of Rights exists, is to prohibit the discrimination of what historically has been called Section 8. But the goal here is to eliminate discrimination for the source of income, whether it be HUD subsidies, whether it be county subsidy, whether it be veterans assistance subsidies, any of the subsidies that normally would assist, those incomes should be considered in that, and should not be, are prohibited from being discriminated against. Mr. Powell, thank you for joining us. For the record, I want to make sure that you were recognized. Did you have a comment that you'd like to make as it pertains to this, and then we'll move on to the next item?
Actually, I did.
Can you make sure your mic is on?
Can you hear me okay?
You have to see
Push
if
button.
your green light's on. There you go.
Okay. Actually, I think Councilman Goods brings up a good point. My only concern would be if you change the name from something to something else. I think it's still going to have a stigma. It's just, changing it. I don't know why you have to call it anything.
I agree.
Just say that people are, you just have income. And I don't know why you have to call it anything. Then that way you actually eliminate this, the potential for a stigma. So,
I can concur with that.
yeah.
So if you haven't downloaded the document recently, take a look at it again, and we'll continue pursuing ways that we can adopt it within the cities so that it's uniform across Hillsborough County, and that we work on developing enforcement and making sure that not only the tenants are aware, but the landlords are aware of what a great program that Tenant Bill of Rights is for making sure that people have access to housing and are not discriminated against within the law. And I'll just make this very quick as it pertains to legislative updates. As you know, the last session, there was basically a permanent sweep of the Sadowski Trust funds. They were cut in half for all practical purposes. The amount that we previously been getting was about half of what was left in the Sadowski Trust when it had been historically swept on an ongoing basis. But the argument was made that the dollars that were swept from the Sadowski funds were allocated towards things that actually would help housing in some way or shape. For example, about 25% of the 50% that was swept went to septic to sewer conversion. So in communities where septic is there and that might present a health hazard to tenants that live in properties or homeowners that have properties, we might be able to develop a program to make sure that we get the funding in Hillsborough County, given how fast we're growing. And we do have a significant septic population all over the county and in many of our communities. So having money go there, my goal is to work with our local delegation along with our full legislature to ensure that Hillsborough County is able to benefit from that decision to take about 25% of what previously had been the Sadowski funds to bring that back to Hillsborough County. Additionally, the other 25% of the 50 that was swept permanently went to sea level rise. And that also is very important in our communities where we have affordable housing that may be subject to flooding or subject to sea level rise that would be maybe not immediately thought through. So for example, if we were to have a surge and it goes up our river areas and to cause flooding in those areas, we want to make sure that we're doing everything we can to address that issue, along with what the fallout of that is higher insurance rates, which also affects affordability in our communities for those homeowners that have purchased through the first-time homebuyer program or in naturally occurring affordable housing where we were able to purchase a home. So we have a vested interest in this conversation, and I encourage all of you to become very aware of that decision that the legislature made, and to keep your eye on opportunities for bringing those dollars back to Hillsborough County so that we do, in fact, have those monies that we're going to help affordable housing and make sure they do. So with that, I'd like to turn the meeting over unless there's other comments or questions. We have several items on the agenda that are good news today, and I'll turn this over to Ms. Howell for the director's report.
Good morning, Commissioner. Good morning, board members. Development Services Department. The modification of mobility fee requirements. I just want to say that, we have what's commonly known as impact fee waivers. And so with the mobility fee waivers, we are able to assist affordable housing developments through paying some of those fees or most of those fees, and that's contingent upon the set aside that the affordable housing unit will be for. We also have the allowance of flexibility and densities for affordable housing. And so whereas you may come into a situation where you may only be able to build six homes on an acre of land, with the affordable housing density bonuses, you may be able to build 17 or 20 on that piece of land. And so that's a huge incentive for many of our developers, and they really take advantage of that. The allowance for affordable housing and the residential units. And so this has to do with the ADUs, and so this has not been as beneficial as we would have liked it to be. And part of the reason is not just because of land regulation. Some of the reason has to do with our HOAs as well. And so our HOAs set the standards for many of our areas. And so a lot of territory, housing territory, is included in an HOA. The reduction of parking and setback requirements, that's been a real, we've kind of been teetering back and forth on that, but we have made some recommendations for the reduction of parking and setback requirements. And so while we're working and hoping to build a more robust public transit system, we're seeing the need for for individual transportation to still be a priority for families that are trying to maintain and work in today's environment. The allowance of flexible lot configurations, there has been a lot of consideration and allowances for flexible lot configurations, including zero lot lines. Like I said, we do have navigators that's within our shop, navigators that's within the development services shop that work together that help our affordable housing developers to utilize these resources. Modification of street requirements for affordable housing. We have worked with, I can think of just recently with RTTB on some of the street requirements for affordable housing. And they really benefited from this, or really the true benefactor was the family that was going in the home. And this is just for unincorporated Hillsborough County. It does not apply to the city of Tampa. So we run into some issues within the city of Tampa with this. And also preparation of printed inventory of locally owned public lands. And so we always get a number of different calls in regards to public lands, affordable housing services, reviews of properties. I am grateful for the Board of County Commissioners for allowing us first glance at those properties as well. And then we have support of development near transportation hubs and major employment and mixed-use centers. We are constantly looking for opportunities to be able to develop properties near transportation hubs and major employment. We've identified 3 properties that we believe will be great for multifamily development, and we're moving forward on that. And then other affordable housing incentives. We will continue to work with developers to identify commercial and non-traditional sites for reuse for affordable workforce housing, properties, non-conforming properties. We're looking for maybe commercial spaces that can be now utilized for affordable housing, whether that be for major modification or, we may even have to do rezoning on it, but we are looking for whatever options there are to create some additional affordable housing opportunities for our residents.
Excellent. Thank you very much for a summary of those incentives that are currently in the draft. It's my understanding that during the month of November, the Board of County Commissions will review the adoption of these incentive plans, just to not only bring them back to the board so that they're aware of it, but also to be able to develop a strategy for partnering with those in the industry as well as with our partners in the municipalities to make sure that everybody's aware of these programs so that they're actually able to be great partners in creating additional housing. Then once the Board of County Commission reviews this document during the month of November and December, that's out to the public for review and for comments. I would like to encourage any opportunities to meet with the industry to make sure that they're aware. We'll look for strategies for getting that information and getting comments back, to find additional opportunities either in our planning, in our zoning land code, or within our comprehensive planning guidelines, to make sure that these incentives actually do help us in achieving a greater level of affordable housing adoption in Hillsborough County. And then ultimately, the local housing and incentive strategies will be incorporated in our local housing assistance plan. That'll be adopted prior to the deadline for that plan, which is to be submitted prior to March of 2022. So to kind of give you an idea of what we have a timeline on how we want to get this done. But if you
Yes.
see or think of or have in the speaking with developers or with, their legal counsel or whatever, see other opportunities that we have maybe missed, please feel free to get that information to Ms. Howell and to Ms. Takamori or our staff, just so that we can ask staff to take a look at how we might add additional items or clarify those that are here on the list. Because there's some great opportunities here to partner with the industry to help us get where we need to go. And then when we're also addressing the community land trust as part of that, I think we're doing a great job in Hillsborough County of looking and having no stone unturned. Ms. Jackson-Sims, did you have a comment or a question you'd like to?
I do.
You're recognized.
Ms. Howe, I'd like to.
Is your mic on?
Yeah, the mic is on.
Okay, great.
I'd like to encourage you and the staff to look at item 7 again. I also wrote that incentive of allowing for sidewalks on one side of the street some years ago, but have come to find that while there's a cost savings up front for the developer, there are safety hazards that outweigh that for the residents who end up living there. So children are not going to cross the street to get to the sidewalk, no matter how many times their parents tell them to. Senior citizens that are trying to come outside and walk with a walker are not going to cross the street with their walker or their chairs. So rather than eliminating it on one side of the street, maybe you can just consider reduction of the size of the sidewalk for both sides of the street, which would equate to the development community still receiving cost reductions, but for us continuing to take care of the health and safety of the residents.
Excellent, excellent comments. I noticed in here that, there's no room for change on garages, but there's room for change on safety. And given the Hillsborough County has adopted a Vision Zero stance, how we balance the actual cost and do that through the mobility fee waivers and other items, I'm sure that's a negotiation that occurs in that process. But thank you for bringing that forward, because I think it is important that we create safe communities. And in addition to meeting Vision Zero guidelines, but especially in those communities where hazards do present themselves, and we want to make sure that we're building safe communities in that respect. So I do truly appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Sims. I just want to add that, while we're considering all of these, please note that the width of the sidewalk also has to do with people who have physical challenges.
Yeah,
And
ADA
so,
compliance.
if they are in a wheelchair, they'll need wider sidewalks, and those are things that we have to consider as well. But certainly we will work through this. Thank you so much for your insight.
Thank you very much, Ms. Howell. And if any of you have any ideas that you'd like to submit, we're in that review period. So please feel free to get that information to Ms. Howell and Ms. Takamori. Ms. Howell, the next item?
Okay, our next item is, I'm trying to scroll back up here. Give me just a second. The next item is our recently approved Board of County Commissioner agenda items. And as Commissioner Overman said, we did get the approval for the CLT, and so we're working with Florida Housing Coalition on that. And so I hope you got an opportunity to review some of the other items that was on the approved items that was included in your packet. In our Affordable Housing Services report, I want to scroll down here for just a minute here. We highlighted one project in particular this month, and that's our Habitat for Humanity. We are working with Habitat for Humanity to develop 12 lots And so I'm excited about this. And if you've ever been out to one of the Habitat homes, you'll know that they do top-notch work. I mean, the homes are beautiful. The people are always so excited. They're spacious, just very, very nice homes. And so we are so excited about this project and what they're planning to do. And so this is for 12 lots, and they're for single-family homes with attached garages as well. So.
Madam Chair.
Councilman Goods, you have a question?
You know, you talk about Habitat for Humanity. I tell you, I've gone to several of their groundbreakings, and the feeling that a homeowner gets with their program, it's very spiritual with their program. I mean, they bring a sense of real home ownership. The person is involved in the process, working with the home, and they have these different pillars when they get ready to open the home with the ribbon cutting, that you go through these different pillars about the house and about the spirituality of the house and home. So I'm a very big supporter of them, just the way they do things, and they do business well.
Excellent, thank you. Any other questions or comments? We have had some great things occur over the last month or so. We broke ground up in the university area with Sky Uptown, which is pretty exciting. I love throwing dirt when it comes to building more homes. It's always a lot of fun. Both Commissioner Myers and I were there, along with several other representatives from our local community. Very excited about that particular program. Then I believe we heard from New Life Village recently that they are doing an expansion of their program. Habitat's had some great successes in creating some home ownership there. So I'm really pleased. We are moving the needle, folks. And we have a big needle to move, but I'm very proud of all the work that our Affordable Housing Department has done. I mean, they monitor a significant number of properties, and we are investing those dollars, that not only the annual $10 million, but we got an extra $1 million this year. Actually, yeah, extra $1 million, $2 million actually, if I'm not mistaken. But the good news is we're putting all of our effort and our shoulder against the goal. So, Ms. Howell, did you have other items that you'd like to cover?
No, I did want to share that we had our groundbreaking ceremony for New Life Village, and that's 16 additional homes that will be coming on board for grandparents, really, who do kinship care. And so that's a very unique program. So we have many of our children that have been removed from their homes with their parents and are in kinship care. And this program is particularly special because it provides affordable housing for some of our grandparents who now have the responsibility of raising their grandchildren as well, or foster children. So this is especially a unique program that we have here in Hillsborough County. So, but I want to say that is it for our affordable housing services report.
Excellent, thank you.
I have one more thing that I want to add, and I know that Audrey shared about the EBRAP program, and that's a rental program, but we also have assistance for people who have fallen behind on their mortgages. If you will look in your packet, we have, I want to say HEA, Housing and Education Alliance, has a contract with the county to provide mortgage assistance for people who are in need. And we have Palm River area CDC, and they are also providing mortgage assistance. And we also have our REACH program, and they are providing mortgage assistance as well. And so while we have a lot of activity going on in our rental assistance program, we just want our residents to know that there's assistance with their mortgages as well.
Excellent, excellent. And for those that are watching and may not be able to see the flyer, as it pertains to mortgage assistance, there is a benefit available to assist with covering past due mortgage payments, including principal, interest, and insurance, in a total amount of not to exceed $7,500 for a period not to exceed 3 months. I think it's really important that we get this information out to those that, especially those that may have participated in the first-time homebuyer program in 19, and now, you know, because of COVID, they either got laid off or had their hours cut back, or they lost their job because, you know, their child may have been quarantined too many times. I mean, there's lots of reasons why people find themselves in a financial difficulty given where we are, given the impacts across the board as far as the pandemic is concerned. So it's not just rental assistance that's available. These 3 organizations, as Ms. Howell referenced, the Greater Palm River CDC, the Housing and Education Alliance, as well as REACH, which is an acronym, but are 3 organizations that assist those individuals that need assistance with their mortgage payments to bring them current so they don't lose their actual home that they've been investing in. So thank you, Ms. Howell, for bringing that forward.
Madam Chair.
In your backup are the flyers, and if you want to download the electronic document, you can actually reprint these documents and send them out to individuals that you may know are in need of assistance.
Madam Chair,
Councilman Goods.
One question and one request from Mrs. Howell. You know, I drive the communities a lot, and people call me for illegal dumping, and I have to look at housing communities and see a lot of blue tops for some of our elderly seniors that don't know that there are programs available for some rooftops and things like that. And I always say rehab is the catalyst to keeping the housing stock and keeping gentrification from happening in communities. So if you can just give an update at our next meeting of reference to the rehab program that we have. And it's like I tell the city, you know, a lot of times these funds come on a lot of federal and state guidelines. So I'm hoping that there's some money somewhere that is non-subsidized to be able to get through a lot of the red tape for some of these folks to be able to actually get the money to really rehab their homes, to put a roof on, you know, to get an AC unit, to do some electrical work in some of these houses, or a floor that's an old wooden house that's falling apart. So if you can just give a brief update on the criteria of the program, if there's any non-subsidized money for some of these people who were maybe making some money, but now they were laid off, or they could be seniors that they're on a fixed income. And, you know, we talk about this area median income. Sometimes people are right in that threshold, and they lose out because of that. So that's why I would say we have to find funds for some non-subsidized money to be able to help those folks as well. So if you can give an update on that at our next meeting, and again, some criteria guidelines and any non-subsidized money to help some of those folks in that shortcomings.
That's an excellent request. You'll
thank you
notice
so
in your
much.
report that there is, in the newsletter, that does show that in 2021, there was a single-family owner-occupied rehab, about $3.2 million was allocated there. But I think it would be helpful to have more information on how is that utilized, how is it deployed. In addition to that, there was almost $7.8 million in multifamily rehab to bring sure that those multifamily programs have the resources to keep the housing safe. So I would encourage, we will add that to next month's agenda if Ms. Howell's able to get that information back to us by next month. Are you able to?
Okay, great. And I just want to say thank you so much, Councilman Goods, for posing that question. And so we currently, all of our resources that go out have some income requirements to them, all of those resources. But I'd be more than happy to bring a report back to the board, you know, outlining the use of those funds and how they've been allocated. Just an FYI, we have a targeted rehab program that does cover East Tampa. It covers East Tampa, City of Plant City, City of Temple Terrace, and unincorporated Hillsborough County. So we do have a targeted rehab that covers that East Tampa area. And so I want to say we went into contract in July, August, with for those services, and so I'd be happy to bring you back a report.
I'd be definitely interested in that portion.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you very much, and thank you, Ms. Howell. You always deliver. I can't tell you how much I really appreciate the hard work of our Affordable Housing Department. They do a terrific job of getting us the information we need, helping deploy these programs. We have pushed the envelope over the last 3 years. to getting a lot of things moving forward, and so I'm very proud of the work that your department does, and I can't thank you enough for the work that you and your entire department have provided us, especially as the Board of County Commission has continued to make affordable housing a priority in Hillsborough County. So, are there any future issues that, other than the one Councilman Goods brought up? Ms. Combs?
Yes, we talked about this earlier on in the agenda, but I think it's important to point out again. We talked about the infrastructure challenges in our community, and as we're working on, affordable housing, it's so incredibly important to look at the infrastructure challenges in our community because we can't build on top of infrastructure challenges that are bad. So I'm talking about septic to sewer and then water as well. A lot of residents in our community are on well water, which is contaminated. And so we talk about the health disparities in some of our communities. They're attributing to this. So I know that the Sadowski funds, some of that funding went to infrastructure, and so it would just be helpful to know how we would be able to access that funding to improve the infrastructure in the communities that we serve. And I know that, this is the Affordable Housing Board, so it doesn't necessarily oversee that, but I think it's important that we don't just stop at the edge, but we blend, because it does impact affordable housing if we're not improving the infrastructure. And I know that there's a lot of money out there. I just haven't been able to figure out how to get it. And so I think it would be super helpful, just a roadmap of how we access those funds or apply for them. I think a lot of different communities would be able to take advantage of that.
Excellent comments, and I agree. We are still in the development stages of planning for the American Rescue Plan dollars, of which affordable housing is a part of that, as well as the other items that you described when it comes to infrastructure. So as that plan evolves, I'd like to make sure that this board does consider ways that we would like to offer a recommendation or offer some strategies we'd like to see utilized in that area. So maybe that could be something we can discuss at the next meeting. So thank you for bringing that
Commissioner
forward.
Overman, if I could just respond to
ahead,
Sarah. Sarah, so Affordable Housing sat on a panel with Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council and the Schimberg Center. And the Schimberg Center and Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council are working on a plan right now that outlines a number of different things. And they are set to present, I want to say a little bit later this month, on their outcomes. It was a planning study that was supported through JP Morgan and Chase. And with that, they are looking at resiliency issues in all of the communities throughout the state, but more specifically, Hillsborough County is what I'm concerned about. And so with that, we are looking at how we may be able to benefit from that process. So I want to say that the state lags a little bit further behind in their planning process and getting money out. And so I know that, the plan to use that money for resiliency seems like it was a long time ago, but not in terms of planning for state dollars. It's not been that long. And so there is no access to the funding right now. And so all of the planning is being taken place right now. Most of it is happening through the planning agencies and organizations that cover either regional or county areas. And so there's no clear path for a nonprofit to engage at this particular time. I am keeping my ear to the ground on this because I want to make sure that that Hillsborough County gets its fair share.
Excellent, thank you very much. And with that, the only other items I have is a thank you to Dr. Strom. Her term as a non-voting member recently expired. And so I received a letter of thanks for her participation. I have every intention of calling her back to see if she'd be willing to consider staying with us, because I think the voice that she provided was enormously valuable in the thought process and how we've developed our focus over the last several years. And so as a valuable member, I plan on reaching back out to her. In addition to that, we've been asked by the Department of Health to focus on the marriage between, or the linkage between health and affordable housing and stable housing. And so there will be an advisory member that will be joining us to help give us some guidance on how we take a look at affordable housing, how we help with communities, and how we move forward in addressing the nexus between good health and well-being, as well as and how that relates to access to housing, or stable housing, and a roof over a family's head. So with that, if I don't see any other items coming forward, I will call the meeting adjourned. Thank you so very much for attending today. I appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great week.